in our prayers. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. O Lord, our heavenly Father, high and mighty King of kings, Lord of lords, the only ruler of princes, who dost from thy throne behold all the dwellers upon earth, most heartily we beseech thee with thy favour, to behold our most gracious Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth, and so replenish her with the grace of thy Holy Spirit, that she may always incline to thy will and walk in thy way. Endue her plenteously with heavenly gifts. Grant her in health and wealth long to live. Strengthen her that she may vanquish and overcome all her enemies, and finally, after this life, she may attain everlasting joy and happiness. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Almighty God, by whom alone kings reign and princes decree justice, and from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding, we thine unworthy servants, here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations, and grant that we, having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honour, and happiness of the Queen, the public wealth, peace, and tranquillity of the realm, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Saviour. Amen. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. I'll begin the meeting as usual with the housekeeping announcements. In accordance with common practice, this meeting is being recorded. We are not expecting a fire alarm for practice reasons, so if the alarm does go off, it's for real. Please leave the building by the appropriate exit, most likely the way you came in, but if that happens to be on fire, there is a fire exit over there. And please turn off or turn to silence all of your mobile devices. We move to item 3 on our agenda, the District Council by-election.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, an apology. The document that went out with your papers originally had the wrong date on it. The date that's now on the long butcher line is 2019, 2021. These papers have been circulated to you, which would have been up to 30 minutes. This is the document we are considering this evening. It's really for your acceptance of this return, and that's the Chair.
Thank you. Is it the Council's wish to accept this result? Thank you. I believe the declaration of office has already been done.
That's correct, Chairman.
Thank you. So can I extend a very warm welcome to our new member? He's well known to many others because he's been a county councillor, certainly in the division which covers part of my ward. you may find that we behave slightly differently than the county council, and it is to be hoped at least as effectively.
I'll bear that in mind.
We move to item 4, the election of chairman. This is an annual event, of course. Do we have a proposal for chairman? Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, it gives me great pleasure to propose Councillor David James to serve as Chairman of the District Council for the year ending May 2018. What can I say about David? When I told his wife I was going to give a lowdown on him, Janet went white, but there's nothing to fear actually, Janet. What can I say about him? Well, he has served this council well. Firstly as a backbencher, then as the strategic planning portfolio holder, and also in the position of Vice Chairman of the Council. When you look at the various chairmen over the years, they've all been and had different characters and characteristics, and different temperaments. What of David? David is a gentleman, quietly spoken, always a steadying influence, a person I believe who will not only chair the council in a fair and just way, but will be an excellent ambassador for the Daventry district when attending the various functions and events over the course of the year. I know he will be well supported in this role by his wife Janet. Having served in the role of chairman myself, I know it's an important role, a busy role, but nevertheless a rewarding role. You leave a mark in the history of the council, and you get the opportunity to support the charity or charities of your choice. I feel sure Councillor David James will live up to this billing, and I look forward to and wish him well during his term of office. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Do we have a seconder to that proposal, Councillor? Yeah, and do you wish to speak?
Just slightly, please. Basically, because Alan has said a lot that I've already written down, but if you wouldn't mind, there's only about 4 sentences, so I'll go through it.
Please go ahead.
Since David became a district councillor, he has represented the residents of Avenue North Ward, and for the last year he has held a position of strategic planning portfolio holder, while Councillor Chandler was otherwise engaged as our district chairman. At the same time, he has also held the position of vice chairman of the council, a position I know through conversations with David and Janet he has enjoyed immensely. It has given him an insight into the responsibilities plus pleasures that this position holds. Responsibilities being assistant chairman to fulfil the numerous invites he receives to official engagements around the district and the county. The pleasures becoming part of the family of other chairmen, mayors, councillors, volunteers and residents that he will meet during his year. I believe that Councillor James, along with Janet as his consort, will make an excellent chairman for the coming year, and I have no hesitation in seconding this proposal.
Thank you very much. Are there any other proposals for chairman, please? I see none. In that case, I can declare that Councillor David James is to be chairman for the next year, unelected. Can I have the agreement of council to that? Thank you very much indeed. This is when it gets really interesting. Now I have to invest you with the chair, with the chain, and I won't give you my chair, I'd rather need it. It's going to be awkward, partly because it's probably pinned to me. No, I have to leave my ears behind. I want you to wear this with pride and care. Many have worn it before you, and I hope this will survive for others to wear it. And I wish you very good luck in your year as chair. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I, David Thomas James, having been elected to the office of Chairman of Daventry District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. A vote of thanks moved to the former chairman for his services during the past year. Councillor Mill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and can I first of all congratulate you on elevation to Chairman's Council and wish you all the very best for the year ahead. Yes, it's my privilege and pleasure to actually give a vote of thanks to Councillor Chandler for his work over the past year. I get many comments about when you go on your travels around this district you have done and elsewhere, and they've always been very positive, so very well done to you. It's a great honour. I know you treated the position as a great honour to you, and you actually served our council very well as the first citizen of the district, which you are, of course, from your chairman, and that's obviously Councillor James now, just handed over to Councillor James. And I have to say, you've been a really good example. I know that you found chairing interesting, to say the least, the chairing of our council meetings, always challenging, but you handled it very well, Councillor Chandler, and I just want to say thank you very much indeed for that, and also in particular your advocacy across the district and elsewhere on our behalf. So very well done on that. I came to your event actually, fantastic event, your chairman's charity event in Yelverton, and I have to say it's a really nice surprise, because sometimes you go to these events, like over the years you go to many chairman's events, and normally they're very good. But your event in particular, Councillor Chandler, was one of the best ones I've been to. It was highly entertaining. And it's the first time I think actually the chairman's participated in the entertainment. So I have to say well done to you on that. Councillor Chandler's a very talented man. And I didn't realise how talented he was until I came to that function of his where he actually sang some opera. And I have to say the event itself was very well attended, not necessarily by members of this chamber, but there were some there. But it was very well attended on behalf of the local community. I know you raised some good money there, which no doubt you will come into it later today. But the point I'm trying to say is, it was really good to see you in action, which is very unusual. Don't see many of our previous chairmen sing. I certainly don't sing personally, but you have a very good voice, and well done to you, and that's a nice surprise. But on the night, I know everyone who went to that event really enjoyed it, and it's a bit of a surprise, because you go along to these events at the Village Hall and you think, well, another event, but it was actually really good, so well done to you on that event. Also, this is very hard for Councillor James, you met some very interesting people on your travels in the last year. I'm going to put on the screen there a picture of you and a very special guest who came to Yelverton. You might remember it well, Councillor James. I do. So that's your target, Councillor James, beat that.
Can you get your arm round?
You do want me to mention that. But you can always go for Donald Trump. Yes. Bring him back to Daventry if you want to. So all in all, though, seriously, I'd like to, on behalf of the council, propose a real vote of thanks to you for your year in office and wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Osborne to second.
You can get up, Chairman. First of all, to congratulate you, Chairman, on being our new Chairman. And secondly, to thank Councillor Chandler for his year. We've got a phrase out in the sticks. We call somebody that can do the job well a good old boy. And I say it because I mean it. You have been a good example of a chairman, a person that has DDC written all over him. Throughout the area you've been, you've represented this council extremely well. Your ability to chair this council is second to none, and I certainly recognise that. And you've been a great asset, and I'm sure you will continue to be an asset. You wouldn't believe it, but Councillor Chandler and myself, the size I am and the size he is in that wheelchair, can both get in the lift.
Not good though.
We both do it at an angle, and we can get in there and the stick stops the lift from opening. Anyway, Chairman, thanks again, Councillor Chandler, for a wonderful job you've done.
I'll now ask that the proposition be put to the council for endorsement. Thank you. Former Chairman to reply to the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and again, congratulations on your position. I hope you will fulfil it as well as you do your other things. I don't want to make a long speech, but I would like to say thank you for those kind words and good wishes from my colleagues here this evening. It's correct, I have met an awful lot of interesting people, and I've met a number of challenges, as you can imagine. I remember saying 12 months ago that I might call on the services of the Vice Chairman to attend events which were beyond me, and I mentioned specifically rock climbing. Unfortunately, we didn't receive any invitations to rock climbing, but we did have a lot of invitations to go to barn dances and civic balls, and I did pass those in David's direction because really I can't do that anymore, although I do miss it. Of all the events that I attended, two of them posed interesting challenges. I did get stuck in the middle of a field in my wheelchair along with the High Sheriff of Northamptonshire, owing to a misunderstanding, but we recovered from that eventually, of course. And on one occasion I turned up in my finery, sporting the chain of civic office to an event in a restaurant in Northampton, organised by the Mayor of Northampton, only for both of us then to discover that I couldn't actually get into the place. So I went home. It was interesting to meet other civic leaders from towns and districts throughout. I even got an invitation across the A5 into Warwickshire to a civic tour of rugby, which I found quite interesting, especially when I was able to point out to the tour guide some characteristics of the parish church in Rugby of which he hadn't been fully aware. It is in fact unique in that it has two towers with ringable bells in, and there aren't many parish churches like that. There are one or two cathedrals which are of course always also parish churches, but it is unique as an ordinary parish church. I also discovered that when a gathering occurs of mayors and chairmen, they are known, I hope affectionately, as the chain gang. So you'll come across that term. I can tell you that many of them really enjoyed going dog racing with me, which surprised me, but it did help to raise some money. The charity I chose for my year was the Farming Community Network, and I told you a year ago why that was so. I still have people come to me and say, why did you choose Farming Community Network? What is farming to you? I did try and remind people. My family have farmed in Kent for over 500 years, and I do well understand the difficulties that face farmers and the splendid work that the charity does in lending them support. Indeed, the bishop who led us in our prayers earlier was until quite recently a trustee of the Farming Community Network, which tells you something about its background, I think. I was able to raise just over £3,000 for the Farming Community Network, which they were very pleased to accept on our behalf. So Daventry District Council will be known to the FCN as a supporting organisation. I know that some of you will go on considering and even supporting the charity beyond my year of office. I would like to thank everybody for supporting me in my year as chairman. It's been difficult for some of us to make arrangements for me to get to places and to participate in events because of my difficulties, mobility, but we've done that, and we have raised a number of flags on the way. We tell everybody that Daventry is open to business, and they now know and understand that in parts where, rather like the Heineken advert, other people don't reach. Much of that was due to the help and support of other members and also officers and staff members of the council. I won't name them all, but I would like to particularly mention Fiona, who acts as the personal assistant for the chairman and does all the arrangement. You will, of course, David, have to surrender your diary to Fiona's keeping for 12 months. I'm just about to get mine back, but she does make sure that you know where to go and what you're supposed to wear and what you're supposed to say and do when you get there, which is absolutely wonderful. It was also very useful to have the support and help of Doug Cole, who no longer is employed by the council. He retired during my year because he was able to get me to places which I wouldn't otherwise have been able to reach. But I would like to finish by thanking a particular person without whose support none of this would have been possible, and that is my wife, Margie. I know many of you haven't met her. She didn't want to be part of my being chairman of the council, but without her I couldn't have done it. And I would like to put on record my sincere thanks to her. And thank you all once again for your support for the charity.
And in the spirit of that, we'll have a presentation of flowers to the former chairman for Margie, who is not here this evening.
Right, I'm going to move on. You're all right. The point of the arm here, of course, is that one should always support the monarch. Oh, bless you. Oh, you can put them there. Thank you very much indeed. I will take them to her, and she will be very pleased to receive them. I will try not to let her think that I bought them for
Right, item 5 on the agenda, appointment of vice chairman. Richard Auger, do you have propositions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. It is with great pleasure for me to propose Cecile Irving-Swift as the Vice Chairperson of the Council for the year 2017 and 2018. Cecile is a vibrant and energetic public servant who served the people of parish of Welford, the Welford Ward since 2012. She's also served in positions within the council, specifically within planning, where she sits as the vice chair. She is a classic public servant. She is busy in her ward area and on business, helping serve others, ensuring that others get the public services they rightly need and they rightly deserve. On a personal note, she has been kind and thoughtful and extremely patient to me when I was first elected, being my tutor to help me with understanding the council and its workings. She will do an outstanding job, there is no doubt. I look forward to seeing her service, and I'm sure we all wish her the very best in her endeavours during the following year.
A seconder for that proposal, please. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to second Councillor Swift, actually picking up and echoing comments Councillor Olga. I also think actually she'll bring an exotic flair in her role, and particularly in these days when we all speak about Brexit, she's quite a bit of diversity for us actually. And I also think actually Councillor Owen-Swift has an absolute immaculate way of presenting herself, which is also essential for such an ambassadorial role. And also a husband, if you go on those events together, he's probably one of the best dressed men I've ever seen in my life. So I think the pair of them will really do a great job supporting Councillor Jones. So I'd like to second Councillor Owen-Swift and make a very good team.
Are there any other nominations for the position of Vice Chairman? I will then put to Council the proposition that the Vice Chairman for the ensuing year be Councillor Cecile Owen-Swift.
Agreed.
Another tricky manoeuvre.
I, Cecilia Owen-Swift, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of Daventry District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
Right, we'll move on to item 6 of the agenda, apologies for absence.
Apologies received from councillors John Shepherd and Colin
Shepherd. Are there any other apologies?
Chairman. Also I have apologies from Councillor Bunton. Councillor Bunton.
Councillor Bunton. Next item on the agenda, number 7, sign the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 23rd of February. These minutes are circulated as attached. Do I have your permission to sign these as true and correct record of what took place? Yes.
About a week ago, I submitted an amendment, proposed amendment to these minutes. Unfortunately, working away from home, I sent that amendment to the Chief Executive rather than the Monitoring Officer. I assume that there is communication between their offices, and yet my amendment doesn't appear to be here before us.
No,
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie.
the amendment did come through to us, and it will be recorded as normally at the start at this point in the meeting. So yes, there was going to be an addition to the section on the minutes.
Thank you.
I add the request, Chair.
Would you like to confirm?
Yes, please.
If I confirm the points, at the bottom of page 13 of your papers, which is where the query was raised, that will be altered before publication. Bottom of the page, after it says looked into by the company, the addition is Councillor Miller said that he would look into the points which Councillor Ritchie had raised and would get back to them in due course. That was indeed said. It's not strictly speaking a clarification in terms of accuracy, but I think it has no material effect on this point. Chairman.
I'll therefore go ahead and sign the minutes as amended. Thank you. Item 8, declaration of members' interest. To receive declarations of members' disclosable interests and the nature of such interests in any of the following agenda items. Do we have any? No? On to 9, inaugural speech of the new chairman. No? Well, first of all, Councillor, I would like to thank you for having the faith and confidence in electing me to the office of Chairman of the Council for the ensuing year. I hope I can live up to the billing as previously given. I shall certainly do my best. I would like to offer a special thanks to the outgoing Chairman, Councillor Alan Chandler, who has been, if I can put it in inverts, my right-hand man ever since I've been a member of this council. As other members know, I've always sat on the left-hand side of Councillor Chandler in the old planning committee when I was a member of that, and in most of the meetings that have been held in this chamber. And it's been extremely useful to me because he's offered me an awful lot of help and advice over the years. If it's not just a quick side matter, a little nudge, and it has been very helpful. So that's one reason for thanking him. The second reason is that he has given me an induction into what being a chairman is likely to involve, through allowing me to go and attend several functions during his year, functions which, as is explained, have not been suitable for him to attend. And it's been very useful to me because I've met people, some of whom I haven't linked hands with for nearly 40 years in the eastern part of the county, and I've had a ball, as they say. I've had a good time, and I hope I'm going to have a good time this year too. So thank you very much, Alan. I mean that most sincerely. And that's not the Huey Green version, that's David James' version. The second thing I'd like to do is to thank Colin Poole as well, because he usually sits on my left-hand side. So I've been his right-hand man on many occasions during the year, and he has kept me amused, sometimes to the anger of the front bench here, I might say. But, you know, I was very sad to hear that Colin's been poorly, and I do wish him well, and I look forward to being with him again as soon as possible, because we have a lot to catch up on together. Now, I've got a little note here, anecdotes, and I'm sure you'll be patient with me if I don't go too far over the top, but I'd like to tell you a few anecdotes. Some of you may have heard this before, but years ago I used to be very active in the Chamber of Commerce movement, Chamber of Trade and Commerce movement. In fact, I was the president of the Chamber of Trade in London in the early 70s. But before I took office, I was vice chairman to a very dear person who did not have much experience in public speaking, which that job demanded. And it was the evening of the annual dinner held at the Hind Hotel in Wellingborough. Lovely old place, still there, needs a bit of work, and I hope they'll look after it. But anyway, it was during the 3-day week. And during the 3-day week, life carried on as usual, as it would if it happened again today. We had candlelight. And poor old Jim, he got his glasses on and he was struggling to read in the dimming light as the candles went down, because we had the dinner and the candles were getting a little bit low. And he went lower and lower and lower and struggling until the entire thing went up in flames. This is an absolute true story. It caught light to the table decorations too. And I remember chucking water on it to put the flames out. But, you know, every speaker has their own little tricks of the trade. During the 60s and 70s, I wanted to be like my hero, Joe Chamberlain, the great Liberal MP, Liberal as in the old version of the Liberal MP, and I wanted to be an orator like him and as clever as Chamberlain was. He was the father of local government, by the way, as well as an imperialist. You know, I studied a lot of orators. I met most of the great orators of the 60s and 70s. And I used to come back home and I used to mimic them. I'd mimic the leading orators in this country here, as well as those across the Irish Sea as well. That's why I used to have a lot of sore throats, wasn't it, Janet? But anyway, I loved doing that. And I learnt a lot of tricks from them. Not only the body language, which was getting old-fashioned even then, the throwing out of the arms and this, that and the other, but also the value of things like the pause, the value of the use of emphasis by using the split infinitive. That was a good one too. And also to know the little tricks when they started off with a speech. But as we know, new technology, and particularly the widespread use of the media these days, makes the old-fashioned orator has become obsolete. If anyone orates today, they're known as a demagogue anyway. So nobody does it anymore. They all do presentations. So people like me have quietened down. For believe it or not, I was qualified as an auctioneer before I qualified as a surveyor. It was unfortunate that after I'd gone through all of those years of study, that they decided to amalgamate the two professional bodies. So I ended up with having worked all that time for 2 qualifications to end up with 1. So that took care of my auctioneering. As I say, the move towards presidential style elections, the use of the media, the influence and the increasing use of spin, which is done by the media as well as politicians themselves, made all my work in the field of oratory obsolete. But I learned one thing, and I learned that from a guy called Bill Owen, who was the actor who played Compo in The Last of the Summer Wine. I was once asked to address the National Pensioners Conference in Bournemouth. And I suspect there are a couple of thousand people there, I don't know. But I had the lead role, which was presenting a paper on European pensions. And I did know quite a bit about European pensions then, but like most things, it's gone out of the air now. But anyway, I had to start off with this, about half hour it took to do it, and I did it exceptionally well, considering I did so. And when it came to the applause, I got quite a mundane response from all these people. It was applause, but it wasn't great. But then on comes Bill Owen, Compo, and he does his bit, which I thought was a load of old tosh. But the house, you know, it came down for him, because as he was to say to me afterwards, he said, "Look, David, I know you drew the short straw here." And he said, "I could never do what you do." He said, "But they really came to see me. They didn't come to see you," which is absolutely true, because he spoke about himself. He was a very talented man, by the way. He spoke about himself, talent across a wide number of things, apart from the acting. And he spoke about himself and about the setting of, and this is a delightful setting, of that particular television programme. So they came to see him, and as I say, the house came down for him. So I've learned this now. You select your audience, you know, and you try and play it accordingly. You don't try and excel in what you think it's going to be, you just pick the audiences. So if they're not interested in you, tough, you know, sit down as soon as you can, and that's it. Now I say all that because I'm not half the man I used to be in the verbal department, and that's due to old age, and of course due to a road dentist who messed my teeth up in Hampshire many years ago, and the chickens have come home to roost. The result of that is that I've lost my verbal dexterity and I've lost my volume as well. So when I come to council meetings, I suspect it's laziness really that makes me slump back in the chair and say, Mr. Chairman, you know, and they say, speak up, you know. It is really laziness. I know what my old Aunt Breen, who helped bring me up, would say. She would say, articulate, David, articulate. And then rip into singing nymphs and shepherds come away, blah, 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 blah. But it is true, it's probably laziness. But I will try and speak up so that everyone can hear me this year, because I suppose that's next on the agenda for me. Anyway, that's a few anecdotes. Now, my chosen charity for the year is Macmillan Cancer Support. Now, I have to say this, until a few years ago, well, not even that, I didn't really know what Macmillan Cancer Support was. And I suspect a lot of people don't know. But I have had a couple of brushes with cancer. I've got one now. I had a modest one which was sorted out thanks to Councillor Patchett here, who spotted I had a carcinoma on my face, and I had most of it removed and plastic surgery. Not that you'd know, it was a marvellous surgery, did it? And lately I've had a brush with cancer and I'm still sorting that out. But when they told me that this time round, the specialist, who was a Spaniard, Mr. Sangadolce, I think his name was, he said to me, I'm very sorry to tell you that you have cancer. And he said, I'm going to ask the Macmillan nurses to come in now. And I said, does that mean I'm going to die? And he said, oh, no. So in come the Macmillan nurses, and then they explained everything to me that the clinician had put in very, very technical language for reasons of protocol and for legal reasons too. They told me as it really was. But of course, when I saw the Macmillan nurses, they put it in everyday language. And it was very, very relieving to hear it spoken about in everyday language. And so I decided to read the stuff that they gave me, and I found a bit about the charity itself. And then I had a very uncertain start to life, but despite that I've had a very, very fortunate life. And after I'd read the literature, I thought, well, you know, remember what my old gran said, count your blessings, count your blessings. And so I thought, well, I don't have to pay rent, I don't have a mortgage, I don't have to scratch around for anything, I don't have to worry about paying the electricity bills, you know, and I'm reasonably healthy and fit. You know, what about people that are less fortunate than me? Because Macmillan can help people who are much less fortunate than me. I may have been a younger man with a young wife and children to support. I may have had a mortgage or to pay rent. I may have been on a very low income. You've still got to go to hospital. you've still got to pay your car parking charges. You've got to get there in the first place, which might be difficult. Macmillan can help with all of those things, as well as helping you get over that feeling of, why me? That sense of loneliness that one gets. The other thing that they can help with is to provide group support, people who are in the same boat as you and who can share their experiences with you as well, which is very, very important. So, following on from Glenda Simmons, Councillor Simmons at Daventry Town Council, having selected it as her charity for the year, I thought, well, what a good thing that would be to continue the process and to promote its profile in the area. Because at the end of the day, this is a truly charitable organisation which relies on voluntary work and funding for 98% of it. So it's very, very worthwhile, and I hope to raise its profile during the year. Now, that probably brings to an end my speech. Safe to say, the one thing I forgot to say is my little party trick. When I used to be asked to give a speech, I would always go into the room and quote a little quotation from the life of the Caesars, and I would put my hand up and say, "Those who are about to die salute you." Perhaps I should have said that at the beginning, but that's what I say now. I certainly will do my best to fight on behalf of the charity, to support the council in an ambassadorial role, to promote our image, to promote the excellent work that we do, not least to get a start on our very big programme during the year, because it is a big programme that we have. I would love to see by the end of the year, or shortly after it, preferably within it, completion of the Daventry Development Link Road, which is going ahead nicely. I would also like to see a start on Site 5 there, and maybe progress on other matters. I know that's difficult. We have this huge agenda. We've been beset with problems. Initially, there's the financial crisis, and of late there are site-specific issues, legal issues to sort out. But I do hope that we can make a really good start on that. So that's the end of my speech. I hope I haven't gone on too long. What I'd like to do now, whilst I'm on my feet, to make some chairman's announcements. During the last 3 or 4 weeks, it haven't exactly been lazy at all. We've been working on, Fiona, Ryan, myself, been working on a programme of events to hold during the year. I can tell you now that my civic service will be on the 8th of October this year, on a Sunday the 8th of October at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It will be held at the church where I was christened, which is the church across the road here, Holy Cross. Thank you to Canon Michael for allowing us to do that. There'll be the choir and bells and the full programme there. So that'll be the civic service. We're going to hold a Macmillan coffee morning on the 29th of September. Details of that will be circulated near the time. We're working on a civic ball in January. The civic ball, I don't know whether it'll be a dinner dance or a dance, a ball, just a ball. Probably we can arrange some refreshments. Much depends upon the price that we can get it done for, because I do want to have a really good band. The band that Diana had a couple of years ago, Councillor Edmund had a couple of years ago, which is an exceptionally good local band, 15, 16 piece band. So that's in the pipeline. We hope that we should be able to hold a concert in aid of Macmillan, again at the Holy Cross Church, sometime probably be after Christmas. Now, unfortunately, the outgoing chairman mentioned the dog racing. I've been to the last 2 that we've had at Toaster Racecourse and enjoyed both of them. And for me, the food wasn't bad, and I'm a finicky eater, by the way. The food wasn't too bad for the price. Unfortunately, they've gone and doubled the ticket price, which means that whereas before we had an inbuilt profit for the charity, there is virtually nothing inbuilt, and it would be very difficult to raise funds through hosting that event again. So as things stand at the moment, there won't be any dog racing this year. We'll try and think of something else. And then finally, whilst I remember it, at the end of this meeting, when we've done the business, and we'll go through that as quick as I can rattle it off, there will be refreshments and drinks downstairs. So, look forward to having plenty to eat, because caterers provided us with that, and the booze and the drinks too. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. Now, item 11 on the agenda, for the party's announcement of group leaders and deputy group leaders. You've had a list that's circulated. I take it that all parties agree with this list?
On behalf of the Conservative Group, can I just confirm the group leader is myself and the deputy group leader is Councillor Strickland.
Thank you.
And on behalf of the Labour Group, can I confirm that myself will be the leader and the deputy will be Councillor Richard.
Thank you.
The group leader for UKIP for the following year will be myself, and my deputy will be Sean Connors.
Thank you. And Catherine.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not actually involved in this agenda. However, it's very sad because it's becoming almost traditional for me to stand up at this point and say I am not a group, but hope springs eternal.
Thank you very much. I'm sure, as I do myself, take a lot from your leadership. Thank you very much. To appoint Vice Chairman and Chairman of committees, we take those as they are? Yes, Can I confirm there's no one in disagreement with the membership of committees? Councillor Richard.
Sir, can I say I'm not disagreeing at all with the membership of the committees. There's an issue which I hope, though, that you might, as chair of the council, like to consider during your term of office, and that I have a concern over the size of some of the committees. You'll be aware that a lot of the work that is done from local government recognises that councillors tend to fall into two categories: those who are executive members and those for whom at least a large part of the work is scrutiny. Yet we only have a scrutiny committee. You'll have it in front of you, in paper. A very small proportion, of 5 members out of 36. There is also a large amount of academic research that has been done on the dangers to effective scrutiny, where you have a council, no doubt all of good, well-meaning people, but situations in which scrutiny is largely done by members of the same group as the executive, and yet we only have a scrutiny committee with one person who is not a member of the controlling group. Now, I'm not suggesting this evening any change that we ought to make about this, but is there not a case for you convening a cross-party discussion at some stage to look to see if we indeed have the most effective arrangements for scrutiny? I do, of course, recognise that scrutiny takes place not just within the Scrutiny and Improvement Committee, but I feel that there is a weakness in this structure.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to say actually as chairman of scrutiny, there are obviously some very interesting points from Councillor Ritchie, but I'd like to very much stress that we have a structure which is based on working groups, or task panels as they're more technically called, and of those, they're led by a member of the committee. But actually, the membership of those groups can be anybody, actually. So Councillor Ritchie is very welcome to join one of those or any other members of any other parties, and very much encourage it. And in fact, actually, you're very welcome to come to the meetings. They're very open and transparent, of course, and also give inputs and feedback, and that's a way of broadening the group. And please, actually, I encourage anybody to get on those working groups, and it actually is very helpful for you to do that because it makes shares the workload, actually, because it's one of those groups where the councillors have to do the work themselves. And actually, if we can have more members from across the groups, that'll be very helpful as well. So there's an open door invitation. Thank you.
Does that satisfy your point, Councillor Ritchie?
Chair, no. Scrutiny, I mean, there is very valuable work that I'm sure is done by task panels. Scrutiny is about putting councillors in a position in which they can directly question what is being done by those who hold executive positions, not the officers, but so that those who, in the nomenclature of this council, are portfolio holders, so that they can ask questions directly of the portfolio holders on things that concern them.
Councillor Miller.
Yeah, well, on that very point, Chairman, I was invited to the scrutiny committee by the Chairman, and I came on to the scrutiny committee to cross-examine the leader, and maybe the scrutiny committee Chairman can inform the councillor who was there.
It's a really interesting point actually, because Councillor Ritchie, I haven't seen him attend any of our meetings, but actually you're very welcome, and we on a regular basis have a portfolio order, and actually those portfolio orders are under basically examination. They're invited to present, and we have a long discussion. Many members have actually witnessed that and taken part, and it's open to anybody to participate. On the Councillor Miller there, the one we had for the leader, actually, where we actually spoke about some very specific issues, including the development of the town, Canal Line, etc., was unfortunately very poorly attended, despite publicity. And actually, no, Councillor Ritchie was not actually present at that meeting. Basically, you're very welcome to come to any of those meetings, particularly where we're cross-examining portfolios, and make a contribution. Thank you.
Final word.
I'm grateful for the invitations to your various meetings. My issue is that we need a scrutiny panel that is in a position to actually vote on whether it regards the performance on particular issues of portfolio holders, on sections of the council's work, whether it believes that they are satisfactory or not. I'm not talking about meetings in which people come along and listen and ask questions. There also needs to be judgments that are made by a scrutiny committee, and that involves voting members, not people who are simply participating in a discussion.
Thank you. Can we now move on to item 13, to consider the following appointments: representatives on outside bodies. Copy attached. We've got no disagreement with the constitution of the committees under item 12. Can I confirm that we have no dissent?
Agreed.
Item 13 then, to consider appointments representatives on outside bodies. Copy attached. It's all right. Learning on the job, they call this. I've got to ask you to agree the appointment of chairman and vice chairman of the committees for the...
Oh, we're going back, aren't we?
Yes, we go back. Yeah. To appoint chairman and vice chairman of committees for the year 2017 to 18, which the schedule has been circulated. May I have your agreement?
Agreed.
Right. And finally, unlucky 13, representatives on outside bodies, that has been circulated. Do I have your agreement to that?
No, Chairman.
I'm sorry.
The fourth time I've had my hand up, but you kept going back to the previous. Just to point out, Chairman, that the Rural Services Network, which I used to be the outside representative last year, has now been passed over to Councillor Morgan. That needs to change. Thank you, Chairman.
Otherwise agreed?
Agreed.
Item 14, questions under council procedure, rules 10 and 11.
Chairman, sorry, I need to take you back to item 13. You'll see from the schedule attached there are 2 grey boxes for the citizen advice district and campaign to protect rural England, where we have 2 proposed representatives, and the council will need to decide on which representative approves to take forward.
So first of all then we have Citizens Advice Daventry District, JV Welfare Rights Staff, current representative Colin Poole, proposed representatives in the Greydout area we've got Councillor Alan Chandler, Councillor Wendy Randall. So we have to have just one of those 2. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, Chairman.
Right. Well, best to do that then by a show of hands, isn't it? All those in favour of Councillor Chandler, raise their hand. All those in favour of Councillor Randall? That's lost, so I now say that Councillor Chandler is the proposed representative for the year. Then we come on to Campaign to Protect Rural England. We have 2 names, Councillor Ian Robertson and Councillor Jason Pritchard. The current representative is Councillor Ian Robertson. Are there any? There are no other representatives, no other, just those 2. All those in favour of Councillor Ian Robertson, raise their hand, please. All those in favour of Councillor Pritchard, raise their hand, please. So that's lost, and it's the appointed representative is Councillor Ian Robertson. Now, can we move on to the next item, which is item 14, questions under council procedure rules, numbers 10 and 11. Yeah.
Hello, Chairman. I've raised this for the last 2 years. It is recommended that representatives from each body submit a written report in respect of the activities of the body to which they are appointed at the end of the year. And yet again, I failed to see a report from outside representatives, and I would like to ask why. What do they do on these bodies? The reason that I put myself forward is because we've got so much hardship within this town that without actively going outside and seeking it, I learn nothing from inside this chamber. And I would request, I would like it written in that, not that it is recommended, that it is a duty to put forward a written report when you are appointed on an outside body to represent and bring it back to the council. Thank you, Chairman.
Are you making a proposal?
I am.
Have you got a second then for that proposal? Right. And your proposal, would you like to say what it is?
I would like to propose that anybody who sits on an outside body submits a written report at least once a year.
So we've had a proposal. At present, this is only recommended that representatives on each body submit a written report. It's recommended, it's not compulsory. The proposal from Councillor Randall is wanting it to be a duty to submit a written report. I throw it up to members of the council. Councillor Morgan.
Chairman, I've heard this before actually, and I think in principle there should be no reason why outside bodies who can't report back. It's actually quite logical in many respects. What I would like to know before I actually voted is what would the content of such a report? Because having actually sat on a couple of these outside bodies, such as the Daventry Consolidated Charity and the CAB, I wouldn't know where to start in terms of reporting back. So we need a bit of structure around that, and that would really help to shape what actually came back. Because what we really need to know is, what do we need to know about what has happened in order to be able to think through how it informs our decision making strategy going forward. I think it's a useful proposal, but I think it needs some more shape. Thank you.
Councillor Robertson, and then Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to point out, well, the bodies that I'm representing do have internet sites, and largely speaking, those reports can be read there. As for the commercial sensitivity of some of the things that I'm on, they can't easily be reported to this open chamber. We would have to exclude the press and others.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think, picking up what Councillor Randall said there about this particular issue in the town she mentioned, it seems entirely appropriate to me. I mean, you can write reports about anything because they don't get read. It seems appropriate to me, the same very, very important Councillor Randall has or any other member has. Going through the scrutiny process might be one way. You could actually then pull the representative to the scrutiny committee and ask the questions you want to ask. That's a way forward, Chairman, rather than just doing written reports for the sake of them. They come to a meeting which may or may not get read, and that's it. It's a nice idea. I'm not against that. I just think it's more important if there's particular issues that people have, they're actually properly debated and scrutiny would be the best place.
Thank you. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I'm assuming that most of those who will serve in outside bodies have got some degree of intelligence to be able to report back, even if it's only to say, look, I've been attending these meetings. These are roughly the issues they've been talking about in the agenda, but it strikes me that there is nothing of great importance or that requires the attention or the action of the District Council. There may be other situations in which, yes, you do need to report back and say, I have been involved in, committee meetings that are of a confidential nature that you can't report on. But it is not just, every organisation, everybody got their own website these days. They have got Facebook sites and everything else. The purpose of having, at least a principal purpose of having a representative to me, is that people can be able to pick up the information of things that we all ought to know about, and the things that we all ought to be basing our policies and our approach on. I would have, in the course of the last year, liked to have heard not just that for example, that the Citizens Advice Bureau held its annual general meeting at which they said thanks to the Council for its financial support. I would have liked to have heard how many people they had needed to refer to the food bank, how these numbers were changing, what are the issues that are coming up concerning changes in universal credit, what are the real difficulties that people within Daventry, within the district, are facing. And I just feel that if we have got representatives in outside bodies, they need to be reporting back in that way. If they are in organisations like a consolidated charity and there's nothing very much to say, fine, so let it be. Let them actually report back so that they are aware, that we are aware that they have at least done the job and are reporting faithfully.
Thank you. I'll call 3 more speakers. That's in this order. 4 then, and no more. That's Councillor Osborne, Councillor Frenchman, Councillor Lomax, and Councillor Wesley, in that order. Councillor Osborne.
It doesn't matter to me because I'm not one of these outside bodies, but I mean, just think about it. We don't say we want to be, we as a council don't say we want to be on these outside bodies. You do the outside bodies, ask for somebody from this council to appoint somebody to go on them. So what do you do for the information? So you get a load of information, you write a report. The next thing you want to do is you want a special meeting to debate it, and you want to bring points up. No, I don't support it one bit, Chairman. I don't belong to anything from this council on the outside body. I do on the county council. And if I was to have to report back on what is a charity in Floor to the county council, which would be of no use at all, multiply that by 50, nearly 60 times, I can see it not a waste of time. The only reason I can see it being brought up is because we've got 3 people sitting in front that want a bigger say in what is happening and to be able to interfere with things. So, Chairman, I shan't be supporting anything like that at all.
Councillor French.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say that I couldn't disagree more with Councillor Osborne on this particular issue. We are responsible as a council for appointing people to these organisations, whatever they may be. They represent us on those boards. We have no idea at this stage what many of them have witnessed or talked about, and I think it would be incumbent on them, as it is at many other levels of government and management, for them to report very briefly back to the council at least once a year, and then we would see the value of actually sitting on these councils and representative bodies.
Councillor Lomax.
Thank you, Chairman. It seems to me that quite a number of these bodies actually produce annual reports, and it's not beyond the wit of man actually to place a copy of the annual report in the members' room for other members to read and to give a very short, perhaps just a very short summary of the year's proceedings via the email. And I think that is really all that's required, but I think it's a very sensible suggestion. I think we should be responsible for the positions that we are given by the council and actually report back. Thank you.
Councillor Wesley.
Thank you, Chair. I too think these outside bodies, it gives this council an opportunity for community engagement and to actually spread the word about these organisations. So, I do pretty much, I think I sort of agree that some, at least, it doesn't have to be onerous, but a few words about the body that you've been representing does get back to this council. Yeah, I do actually think it's a good idea that we do it. It doesn't have to be onerous. It doesn't have to be absolutely everything they do. Just an impression, really. And I think I support this.
Well, before we go to a vote on the motion, I'd like to ask Councillor Randall to respond.
Yes, thank you. I'm just thinking that, you know, on the town council we report back. I don't know if any of you do sit on outside bodies on your parish, but it's very brief and it just gives members, you know, some information. And it's not about the whole meeting. You don't want to be reading the whole meeting. It's what's, you know, what you've got to bring back to the council that might be something that we need to be putting on our agenda and discussing. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, well, we have a proposer and a seconder for this motion. Those in favour of making it not a recommendation to submit a report, but a duty to submit a report. Those in favour of that, would you raise your hand, please?
Chair.
17. Those against any change to the status quo?
Chair.
13. So the motion is carried 17 to 13. Thank you. Quiet please. We now move on, finally, to item 14, which is questions under Council Procedure Rules 10 and 11, to answer questions from members of the public, if any. None advised. Secondly, to answer questions from members of the Council, if any, and we do have a question from Councillor Ritchie to Councillor Chris Miller, Leader of the Council. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chair. In response to a question concerning the proposed canal arm, which I asked at the Council meeting on 6th of October of last year, the Leader of the Council circulated an email, and I believe that was circulated to all members of the Council, in which he advised that, and I quote, "The Council is currently working with the Canal and River Trust, the CRT, to update the estimated costs using the CRT's cost-benefit analysis tool, which is still under development." My question is, firstly, can the Leader of the Council provide an update on the progress of this work and circulate details of the CRT's cost-benefit analysis tool? In the same email, the Leader of the Council stated that the funding strategy report on the proposed canal arm, produced in 2009, and I quote, "has not been updated, but would need to be, as many of the funding sponsors and funding programmes have changed." Can the Leader of the Council tell us if the funding strategy has now been updated? And if not, what progress has been made in updating it, and when he expects to be able to provide the Council with an updated strategy?
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Councillor Ritchie for his question. It's always good to get questions. My response to that question, Councillor Ritchie, is the Council continued to engage with the Canal and River Trust, CRT, on the use of its cost-benefit analysis tool, but it's still work in progress. However, having achieved planning permission, in order to move the project towards implementation, the Council has produced consultancy advice on costs, and it's intended that these be reported to the Strategic Group at its July meeting, as part of a comprehensive report on delivery options. CRT will not release details of its cost-benefit tool until its work is completed, but there is confidence that it is sufficient for its purpose. Current available grants have been investigated, inquiries made to organisations with responsibility for them, for example the Parks for People grant operated by the Greek Lottery and Heritage Lottery Industrial, Maritime and Transport Fund, but there are currently none available for which this project will be eligible. The availability of grants will be reviewed periodically as new grants become available in time. The report to Strategy Group will present options for delivery and on funding. So that's in July. Promotion and marketing of the Canal project continues with the aim of attracting potential investment and to maintain interest from partner organisations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Well, there's no other questions. We'll now move on to reports of committees. Item 15, reports of committees. These are on page 77. Oh, sorry. Reports of committees. These are with the minutes for information purposes. Do I have your approval of those reports? And now we come on to recommendations of committees, which is item 16, and these are on page 77. Strategy Group 9th of March 2017. Strategy item SG 221701, the Statement of Community Involvement. Councillor Miller.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. We had a debate on this on the 9th of March at Strategy Group, and I always want to remind members, of course, they're always invited to come to Strategy Group, where they have the opportunity to ask questions and to input to the debate, and a number of members who aren't on Strategy Group do that on a fairly regular basis. And sometimes people turn up and have a specific item they want to discuss. and that will continue, and everyone's welcome to attend those meetings. On the basis of that, I put forward 3 recommendations, Chairman, which are before you. I don't see the need to make them out unless you wish me to do so.
No need.
Thank you much, Steve.
Do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Warren. Agreed?
Agreed.
Item SG 231701, the Smoke and Carbon Monoxide Alarm England Regulations 2015, Statement of Principles. Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Chair. This report is intended to support the introduction of a statement of principles that is required to be published to allow Daventry District Council to apply penalty charge notices under the Smoke and Carbon Monoxide Alarm England Regulations 2015. Landlords within the private rented sector have a legal responsibility to maintain their properties in a good state of repair. The Smoke and Carbon Monoxide Alarm England Regulations 2015 require all landlords to install smoke alarms on every floor of privately rented residential accommodation. The Statement of Principles, once agreed and published, will allow the Environmental Improvement Service to penalise landlords who flagrantly fail to comply with the regulations. Any landlord issued with a penalty charge notice will have already been given 28 days to comply with statutory requirements by issuing a remedial notice. The financial penalty should be set as an amount to ensure that those landlords who fail to comply with the law are sufficiently penalised. We should also aim to issue penalties in line with other Northamptonshire authorities to ensure that landlords receive consistent messages where possible. I therefore ask that it be recommended to agree the adoption and publication of the Statement of Principles as attached in Appendix A of this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? Next item. Getting into the river.
You've got the Chairman.
Next item, strategy SG 281701, Biodiversity Supplementary Planning Document. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think one of the most exciting parts of this document is its title. I don't propose to discuss it. It was discussed extensively at strategy on the 13th of April. This is as a result of a consultation period which was extended from the usual 6 weeks to 8 weeks to allow for the Christmas holidays, and the document was adjusted and changed in light of those representations received. So the recommendations are before you, Chairman.
Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Warren.
Agree.
Agree.
I'm learning from that. You're learning.
Moving on to SG 281702, Boughton Village Design Statement. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a village design statement document which has been through the mill over the past months. Further consultation was carried out, and as a result of that, some further changes were proposed, and those were debated at strategy on the 13th of April, and the recommendation is that this council should agree to those alterations being approved, and that the village design statement be adopted. And then the third is an obvious consequence that the previous village design statement should be revoked.
Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you. I'll be pleased to second that proposal.
Both proposer and seconder, all in favour?
Agreed.
SG 281703, the Community Infrastructure Levy Update. Councillor Chandler again.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm almost getting used to the idea. This was a result of an extensive debate I think took place at strategy. I seem to remember that it went on and on a bit, but the recommendation is that the SIL programme be updated as was set out in the report to strategy, that the council adopts or confirms its position of the SIL discretion, and that the budget for planning investigation be increased accordingly. The details are in the papers, Chairman. I don't propose to discuss them any further.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Osborne. Agreed?
Agreed.
Finally, on this item, Monksmoor SG 301701, Monksmoor Primary School revisions to business plan. Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Chairman. As the Chairman stated, we're referring to Monksmoor School and the revisions to the business plan. In front of you, you have 4 recommendations. I don't propose to read them all out. It was discussed very thoroughly at strategy group, but one I will refer you to is recommendation number 2. That the capital programme funding for the school can be reduced from 5.038 million to 4.537 million, with 0.060 million in the year 16 and 17 and 4.389 million in 17 and 18. Now you're entitled to ask, well, why has this come about? This has come about due to a small reduction in the size and a reduction in the school places requirement. The original report referred fully to this. Although there is a reduction in size, there is still a lot of flexibility which depends on the final pupil requirement. But if more school places are required than the original estimate, the school could actually move into the nursery area, with the nursery then located elsewhere. I think it's also need mentioning that we need to be aware there is also provision of a school in the Micklewell Park development. So I think that could be added to the mix if necessary. I totally agree, there have been delays. The original completion was scheduled for completion in September this year. However, the plateau has now been delivered. The site is a split level site on high level land, so there is no flood risk. So let's move it forward. As I stated at strategy, the school will actually be part of Hill Ward, which is my ward, and I'm certain that my fellow ward councillors will agree that as some young families have already moved into the estate because of the school, the sooner it's built, the better. Whilst we are not the Education Authority, we are fully aware that is the County Council. We as a district have led the way into improving the education offering in Daventry, and we need to confirm our intention to do all we can to get this moving. So I would ask you all to approve these revisions and show this council the intent to help improve the education on offer to our young people in Daventry. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Amy Howard.
Yeah, I would just like to say I totally support the school of Monksmoor. However, I would just like to ask if you have any idea when the Micklewell Park School will be in operation? But I would like to propose second.
You're seconding that?
Yeah, but I would just like to ask that question.
If I may, Chairman, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know if any of the officers can update us on the Micklewell Park development. I know that's something for the future, but I'm sure I might be able to give a little bit more answer to your question. Thank you.
Simon Byrd.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm afraid my answer will be somewhat disappointing in that I don't have a precise date. Northamptonshire County Council have assured us that they are determined to deliver the school at Micklewell Park, and their seeking funding from the Education and Skills Funding Agency to enable that to happen, but I can't give an exact date.
Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm struggling with the numbers here because it's not very transparent. And I know some of this is conjecture because we don't know what's going to happen in front of us. I know there's been some steering around what was originally planned for Middlemore. And here we are now with, what, as I see, not very visible numbers in terms of the amount of pupils that require places now, the expansion of all the developments in terms of how many children and families we think are going to be in the area, and the fact that there may or may not be a third school, the Coyle Park, built. How can we plan when we have uncertainty, and then you reduce the size of the school accordingly? That to me doesn't have any rationale. If we do have 3 schools in that area, including Welton, the C&V school currently, we could have feasibly 3 schools, including the Coyle Park development, with a space of a mile or so from each other, all saturated in one area. I would have thought some people have modelled that, thought about that. But that is a pertinent point, without being conceited, that we have 3 schools in a saturated area with an unknown number of pupils. I just wanted to make that point, although of course I support the great need for many more primary school places within the Daventry area.
Simon Flowers.
Thank you, Chairman. Just for clarification, the school at Monksmoor is being built tied to a Section 106 agreement specifically for Monksmoor, and the calculations for pupil generation are all related to that site. So we don't actually have a choice. We have to build it designed to meet the number of pupils arising in Monksmoor, which the formula in the 106 is designed to provide for.
I'll do 2 more speakers, Councillor Randolph and then Councillor Miller.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Many times I've been sat on a planning committee, we've heard about how new developments will deliver a certain amount of children for schools. I've often disputed this, knowing that schools have been built and have already been oversubscribed. Ashby Fields being one of those, a lot of people moved on to Ashby Fields, could not send their child to school, so had to send them elsewhere. And, you know, I note that NCC has expressed unease at the proposed approach. If NCC have expressed unease at the proposed approach, and they actually are the ones that decide, you know, what houses are going to have what children in, then I am also very much at unease at the reduction of the size in this school.
Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I wasn't going to say anything actually because Simon Bowers had covered the point I was going to make. The Education Authority is the County Council. They obviously determine, they deal with the school numbers, and what we are, we're in charge of the economic growth agenda, and we're heavily involved in the secondary provision at the moment behind the scenes. But obviously the point about the primary schools is they determine how many primary schools they need and when they need them. And those figures are always moving up and down. It's not this authority that determines that, it's the County Council. What we do is react to the County Council's requirements, because we are very keen to make sure we have good provision in Daventry, not only in terms of numbers of schools, but in terms of quality of schools, both at the primary level and the secondary level. And there's a lot of work going on in this authority to try and support our growth agenda, because more and more people are going to move to Daventry in the years ahead. And we want to make sure we've got a really good first-class education package. And there's a lot of good news in the education world at the moment in Daventry, and let's hope that continues. But obviously, you know, we have the new Christchurch development coming out, Northeast SUE, as we call it at Daventry, where 4,000 plus homes are going to be built. There's a new secondary school also planned for that area, and obviously that's something else we're working on. But the point I'm trying to say is, we mustn't get confused about responsibilities. We're here to support, I'm not going to get you, just saying we're there to support. And the points that Councillor Randall made, fair points, but the point is it's not our decision. We have to react to what we've been given. And what we're really keen on, I'm sure you are as well, is to make sure future children in this town have a good school to go to, both at primary and secondary level.
We've had sufficient hearing of this now. Time is moving on.
Yeah.
I'd like to put this to a vote. We've had a proposal and a second. Now I'd like to put this to a vote.
I'd like to vote against the reduction in sizing, Chairman, please.
So you're voting against?
Yes.
I would have wanted to raise a point of order, Chair. My point of order is that in the debate, there is, I assume that unless there is a good reason for not allowing it, for allowing a member to speak for up to 5 minutes, I will be corrected if I have got the timing wrong. But you know, we have been here in this room for less than an hour and 3/4. An hour of that was taken up with what some might regard as a process of self-congratulations. We're here actually to discuss, the business of the council and our obligations to the people that we are here to represent. I don't think it is appropriate to cut short a debate in that matter when it comes to something as important as this.
Can I remind Councillor Ritchie that this item was discussed so as to be by strategy group before it came to council. It's been well and truly aired. Anyway, all those in favour? The next item on the agenda is item 17, commercial unit upgrades, procurement of overcladding roofing works. That was to be presented by Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm speaking on behalf of Councillor Paul, who can't be here this evening. And just on Councillor Paul, we can inform Council that his family's been in touch with him today, and they're very grateful those members have already been in touch about his situation. They were really grateful. They didn't contact his wife, who's also not very well, and I'm more than happy to come through here if you want any updates, or come through Deanne for any further updates on his health. But on the point of this particular paper, I'd just like to put forward the resolved item, which came from strategy group about the commercial units. And obviously, in some ways, this is a good news story, because what we're saying here is, given that the roof works is simple, repetitive, and low risk, it would seem sensible to try and obtain a better value for money potentially offered by SME roofing contractors. And we're always keen to support our small, medium enterprises in this area. So that's what's behind this particular paper. And so therefore we're seeking to seek formal quotations by means of public notice, including as required on the government's contract to find their website, as well as other notifying known contractors of the opportunity. So I put to Council that the result of the item that work for the overcladd commercial units may be procured by means of contract procurement regulations processed for with advertisement of the opportunity. Thank you, Chairman.
Do you have a second? Councillor Osborne. Item 18, urgent business. Right, yes. Right, we've had a proposal and a second for the last item. Are we all in favour of that? Are you all in favour of that?
Can I speak? Can I say something?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. This seems an eminently sensible idea, and I just wondered whether this is going to be future council policy on all tenders and negotiations of a similar size.
I think it's more about the simplicity of what the work is rather than the size of the contract.
Thank you.
It's unrelated, I just wanted to say this. I just, as well as all of our group members, just wish speedy recovery.
Thank you, Mr.
To Councillor Paul and his wife.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
If I could just say something about whether this is going to become the norm as opposed to a one-off. It will become the norm if we can find a simple way of putting it. The Constitution can then be adapted to accommodate us. Because at the moment we've just got thresholds, and the thresholds are actually taken away.
Thank you very much. Right, so we've had a proposal and a second out. We've had a little debate post my announcement and such. Are we all in favour? Agreed. Item 18, urgent business. None advised. Then finally, Item 19, we need to bring the meeting to a close and to tell you that thank you for your attendance. Mr. Chairman, that there will be refreshments downstairs. Please do come along. Yes.